My name is Hannah Leeton. To many, I might just be an ordinary woman, nothing special. I am a 32-year-old nurse living in a small town. My job is to take care of others, a job I love, but my personal life is gradually falling apart. Every morning, I wake up with a strange sense of emptiness, even though everything on the surface seems perfect. A cozy little house, a stable job, and a church community I've been a part of since childhood. But deep down, I feel like I'm losing something important. I no longer feel close to God as I once did. My prayers seem lifeless. The church rituals I used to cherish now feel like mere routines. I find myself wondering, is my faith truly alive, or is it just a mask I wear every Sunday? That morning, I left home early to go to work. The sky was clear, the sunlight gentle, and the birds sang a peaceful melody. I tried to push away the heavy thoughts in my mind, turned on a familiar worship song, and told myself, everything will be fine. God is still here. I'm just not seeing him right now. The streets were quieter than usual that day. I stopped my car at a familiar intersection, the red light glimmering in the morning light. I glanced at the clock. 15 minutes left, and I'd be at the clinic on time, as always. And then it happened. From my left, a truck suddenly sped toward me at a terrifying speed, running the red light. I didn't have time to react. The sound of metal crashing was like thunder, shattering the morning's peace. Time seemed to stand still. I felt the car shake violently, and then everything went dark. I don't remember if I screamed or not. I only recall a sharp pain in my chest, followed by a sensation of weightlessness. I realized I was outside my body. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the familiar world. A space filled with radiant light appeared, so brilliant it seemed to surpass every concept of color I had ever known. This light didn't just illuminate the surroundings, it seemed alive, pulsating like a heartbeat, emitting melodies so divine that I didn't just hear them with my ears, but felt them deep within my soul. Every step I took, or at least I thought I was walking, as my body seemed weightless, created ripples of light that spread out, blending into the space like water merging with a river. There was no darkness, yet it wasn't a blinding brightness either. Instead, I felt an absolute peace, as if every worry, fear, and pain had been swept away. In the distance, shapes began to emerge, like shadows slowly being molded into form within the light. At first, I saw only a pure beam of light, but gradually an image became clearer. A being of light stood before me, a celestial being, unlike anything I had ever imagined. This being didn't have wings like the angels depicted in ancient paintings. Instead, it resembled a stream of living light, flowing continuously across its form. The light wasn't just pure white, it was a moving spectrum, bands of blue, gold, silver, and metallic pink interweaving, as if every hue of the universe was gathered in this one figure. Every time it moved, the surrounding space gently vibrated, creating a symphony of sounds I couldn't describe. It wasn't music, but frequencies, rhythms emanating from the being's presence, with each note carrying a sense of serenity and profound hope. The being's face wasn't distinctly human. Its eyes were two radiant golden lights, deep as if holding an entire universe within them. It had no mouth, yet when it spoke, its voice resonated across the space, not through my ears, but directly into my soul. "Hannah, be at peace," the being said, its voice like the harmonious ringing of 1,000 bells. "You are not here because of any mistake or punishment. You have been invited to witness truths that not everyone has the chance to see. I am your guide." I wasn't afraid. Instead, I felt an extraordinary warmth enveloping me. I didn't know who or what this being was, but in its presence, I felt an unconditional love, powerful like the ocean, yet gentle like a cool breeze. The being extended its hand, or at least I thought it was a hand, as it resembled a stream of light swirling with shimmering particles. When I placed my hand on it, the entire space seemed to dissolve. I realized I was standing in a corridor of light, though corridor doesn't fully capture it. The walls around me weren't made of stone or wood, but of vibrant, pulsating light, as if I was walking inside a stream of energy. Occasionally, these walls would open slightly, revealing vivid images like screens displaying someone's memories or future. Every time an image appeared, accompanying sounds would resonate: laughter, tears, prayers, as if the entire corridor was a grand organ, and each image was a key being played. At the end of the corridor, I saw a beam of light more powerful than anything around it. This light didn't just shine, it drew me closer, like a gravitational force. The being of light beside me said, "You are about to witness what many have never seen. Remember this, for it is not just for you, but to share with the world." Revelation 1. Forgiveness. Suddenly, I found myself in an ancient village bathed in soft, golden light. Before me was a scene unfolding. A middle-aged woman knelt before a young man. His face was filled with anger and bitterness. As if whispered by the air, I learned the story. The man had been betrayed by the woman in a business deal that caused him to lose everything. The woman spoke, her voice trembling. "I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I cannot undo what has been done, but I wish to do everything I can to make amends." At first, the man turned away, his heart heavy with hatred. But as he listened to her sincere plea and saw her tears, something within him changed. He turned back, his eyes glistening, and said, "I forgive you, but let God take care of the rest between us." I watched as his act of forgiveness created a radiant light, spreading outward and dispelling the darkness that surrounded them both. The angel beside me explained, "Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the power to set free both the hurt and the one who caused the hurt. When you forgive, you allow God's light to heal the wounds in your heart." Revelation 2. Faith in Trials. I blinked and the scene changed. I found myself standing in front of a small house in the middle of a barren desert. Inside the house was an elderly man kneeling in prayer at an empty dining table. I could hear his prayer, filled with unwavering trust. "Lord, I have nothing to feed my family today, but I trust that you will provide." Outside the door, a group of people gathered, mocking him. "You're foolish to keep believing in something that obviously doesn't exist. Where is your God now?" But the man was unshaken. I could feel the peace radiating from him, a powerful faith that couldn't be swayed. Later that afternoon, a sudden sandstorm arose. When the storm passed, a food truck that had lost its way stopped right in front of the man's house. The driver stepped down, looking surprised, and said, "I don't know why, but something urged me to go in this direction. I feel like I'm supposed to give this food to you." The elderly man smiled, tears streaming down his face. "The Lord has not forgotten me." The angel beside me said, "Faith is not about believing when everything is going well. It's about trusting when you can't see the way forward. True faith is tested in the darkest moments, and God always answers those who remain steadfast in him." Revelation 3. Sacrifice and love for others. I was taken to a bustling city. The scene was noisy, and the light seemed dimmed by the chaos and darkness of selfishness. In the middle of a crowded street, an elderly homeless man lay slumped on the sidewalk. Passers-by hurried along, ignoring him as if he didn't exist. Suddenly, a young woman stopped. Though she didn't seem to have much herself, I saw her kneel beside the man and offer him a sandwich she had just bought for her own lunch. The man's hands trembled as he accepted it, his eyes lighting up with gratitude. But the miracle wasn't just in her act. The light of her love spread outward, illuminating the entire street. Passers-by, who had been indifferent moments before, began stopping to help the man in their own small ways. The young woman's simple act of kindness had sown a seed of love, and that seed blossomed into a wave of compassion. The angel explained, "Sacrifice doesn't always have to be grand. Sometimes a small act of genuine love can create ripples that transform many hearts. Satan cannot imitate true love, for it flows from the light of God." Revelation 4, Humble Service. I was brought to a small village nestled in the mountains. The surroundings were simple, yet I could feel an extraordinary sense of peace. There, I saw an elderly man tirelessly digging a well. He worked alone, his body visibly exhausted, yet his hands never stopped. I approached him and asked, "Why don't you stop? How can you possibly finish this on your own?" He smiled, wiping the sweat from his brow, and replied, "This village needs clean water. I may not live long enough to see this well completed, but I trust that God will use it to help others." I stood in silence, awestruck by his determination. Over the next few days, I watched as villagers began to join him, helping to finish the well. The scene was beautiful. Together, they not only brought forth clean water, but also mended broken relationships within the community. The angel beside me explained, "Humble service is the mark of a heart surrendered to God. Those who live to serve others will leave behind a lasting light, even if they never see the fruits of their labor." After witnessing these revelations, I was led to a place filled with radiant light. The space around me became completely still, not an empty stillness, but a sacred, life-filled tranquility. Before me, a brilliant light appeared, brighter than the sun, but not blinding. This light didn't merely shine, it enveloped everything in an indescribable peace. Every cell in my being seemed to be warmed by the love radiating from it. As I looked closer, the light began to shift and clarify. A figure emerged, Jesus. He wore a white garment that shimmered as though woven from pure light. His eyes, they were deep, containing the entire universe, yet also tender and near. It felt as though he could see every hidden corner of my soul and still love me unconditionally. I couldn't do anything but kneel. It wasn't an act of will, but an instinctive response to the absolute holiness before me. He spoke, his voice gentle yet full of authority. "Hannah, do not be afraid. I have always been with you, even when you didn't realize it." I wept, tears streaming down my face. I tried to speak, but no words came. Finally, I whispered, "Lord, why did you let me go through this? Why did you choose me when I am nothing special?" He smiled, his smile like the dawn, bringing hope and dispelling all darkness. "You are special to me, Hannah, not because of what you've done, but because you are a part of my love. I did not choose you because you are perfect. I chose you because I have a plan for you, to be a light guiding others." I lowered my head, feeling unworthy. "But I am weak, I doubt, I am afraid." He placed his hand on me, not a physical touch, but a sensation of overwhelming love and acceptance. "I do not seek perfection, I seek hearts that are surrendered. When you are weak, my strength will be made perfect in you. Trust in me, for I will never abandon you." Looking at him through tear-filled eyes, I asked, "What do you want me to do? How can I serve you when I am just a small, flawed human?" He replied, his voice filled with both love and urgency, "Tell the world about my love. Help them understand that I do not seek outward religious forms. I seek a true relationship, a relationship that transforms hearts and brings life." He extended his hand, and I felt a stream of light pour into me, as though he was inscribing something onto my soul. He said, "Hannah, promise me that you will not let fear stop you from carrying out what I have placed in your heart. Walk in courage, for I will always be with you. When you speak, I will guide your words. When you act, I will strengthen you. And when you doubt, remember that my love will never leave you." Placing my hand over my heart, I felt the warmth linger like a divine seal. I responded, "I promise, Lord, I will no longer live for myself. I will live to glorify you and share your love with the world." He smiled, his eyes shining like two stars. "Go, my child. Tell them they don't need to be perfect, only to come to me with their whole hearts." I awoke in the hospital, and the light in the room seemed brighter than usual. My family stood around me, my mother praying at my bedside, my father holding my hand. My first sensation wasn't the pain from the accident, but a profound peace, as if everything I had just experienced in the spiritual realm was still within me. The doctors came in, astonished at my recovery. One of them said, "This is miraculous. Considering the severity of the accident, you shouldn't have regained consciousness this quickly, or even survived." But I knew what had happened. I knew I had been given a second chance, not just to live, but to share the revelations I had been shown. In the weeks following the accident, my life began to change. The revelations Jesus had taught me weren't just abstract concepts, they were living truths, meant to be applied in everyday situations. 1. Forgiveness. One day, I encountered my old friend Emily, who had deeply hurt me in the past with her lies. We hadn't spoken in years, and I had sworn never to talk to her again. But as soon as I saw her, the words of Jesus echoed in my mind. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the power to set free both the hurt and the one who caused the hurt. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to invite Emily to sit down and talk. During our conversation, I felt my heart grow lighter as I spoke about the pain I had held onto for so long. We cried together, embraced, and began to heal the wounds of the past. It wasn't just me who was freed from bitterness. Emily also felt a sense of healing through my forgiveness. I realized that forgiveness wasn't a gift I gave to someone else. It was a gift God gave me to release myself from anger. 2. Faith in trials. 2 months after returning to work, my clinic faced financial cuts, and I was one of the employees let go. Confronted with financial pressure, I felt fear and anxiety creeping in. But then, I remembered the lesson about faith that Jesus had shown me. Faith is not about believing when everything is going well. It's about trusting when you can't see the way forward. Instead of panicking, I knelt in prayer, asking God for guidance. In the following days, something miraculous happened. I received a job offer from a larger hospital, one where I not only had financial stability, but also greater opportunities to help others. I realized that God had never left me, even in moments when I felt most alone. He was always leading me as long as I was willing to trust and surrender. 3. Sacrifice and love for others. One evening, while walking home, I saw a young mother standing by the roadside with her child. She looked exhausted and desperate. In that moment, I recalled the scene of the young woman in the spiritual realm who had shared her bread. I approached the mother and asked what she needed. She explained that she hadn't eaten all day. I bought her a meal and helped her find temporary shelter. Though my action didn't change her life completely, I saw a spark of hope in her eyes as she thanked me. I understood that even small acts of kindness could create powerful ripples if they were born from genuine love. I knew that my experiences were not meant to be kept to myself. I began sharing my story with family, friends, and my church community. Initially, I worried that people might think I was exaggerating or making things up, but I quickly realized that my testimony resonated deeply with others. At one prayer meeting, after I shared my story, an elderly woman stood up, tears streaming down her face. She said, "I've felt empty in my faith for so many years, but your story reminded me that God doesn't need perfection. He only wants me to come back to Him with my whole heart. I also started documenting my experiences in a journal and turned them into articles and videos to share on social media. My goal was to reach those who felt lost and let them know that God was still with them, waiting with open arms. Every morning when I wake up, I remind myself of the covenant I made with Jesus in the spiritual realm. I will no longer live for myself. I will live to glorify you and share your love with the world. My life isn't perfect, but I've learned that Jesus doesn't seek perfection. He seeks a heart that is surrendered, willing to love, forgive, and walk in faith. This story isn't about me being special. It's about reminding you that God is inviting each of us into a true relationship with Him. He doesn't need elaborate religious rituals, but a heart open to being transformed by Him. If you feel empty or lost in your faith, remember that Jesus is not far from you. He's standing there, arms open, waiting for you to come to Him with your whole heart. Seek Him, and you will find something that no force on earth can imitate: the love and true life found in the Savior.